me for my own personal benefit so that I can look at myself and go, wow, what a great teacher, right? Okay. Well, we are going to go over our language from yesterday, because all of you I know listened on Monday and we were talking about main idea, and you were really excited about proving to me that you knew how to do main idea, correct? Yes. Well, some of you proved very well that you know main idea, that you were paying attention, that you know how to mark your sentences and the answers, and some of you I think need a little work. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to hand you it back and you'll get to see what you made. Some of you will be happy with it and some of you won't. You're going to get another chance tomorrow to prove it again, that you're going to listen today and that you know how to do main idea. So we're going to go over each of these answers. I need everybody paying attention while we're going over them. All right? First of all, we're going to go ahead and pass out the paper so you can look and see. That's Martin. How you've done. Jasmine. Brian. Trenton. Sarah. Samuel. And Lori went home. Rashonda, Charlie, Dre, Tom, Nate, Abel, where'd you go? There you are. Kelly, and Jennifer. Alright. Okay, so if you have a score that you are really happy with, does that mean that you can just shut your ears and not listen?
No.
No, it probably means that I need you to help me in explaining it to those of us who had a hard time with it, right?
Yeah.
Alright. Jason, if you will go lay down the overhead for me, I would appreciate that. Yes, and turn the lights off. Thank you, sir. Okay. You know what we're probably going to need, do not get up until I'm done, is a pencil. And I need everybody quickly and quietly to get out a pencil. Go now. Don't run over Jennifer. That's fine. Did you get one, Bobby?
Yeah.
What's it at? It's where?
Give it out.
Yes, hey, you don't need to ask Sarah what she got. Sarah, you don't need to ask Meg either. Alright, come on, get your pencils, let's go. No, just leave it, but don't be messing with it. Jasmine, let's go. Yes, Brian. Do you need to worry about that? No, thank you. Jason, let's go. Alrighty. We're going to read through the passage together. Actually, what's the first thing we need to do from our rules yesterday? Who can remember? Jimmy? Okay, what's the first thing? Remember when we added the other things that we learned on Monday? Samuel? Number the paragraphs, right. So I need some help. How do I know what a paragraph is? How do I know where it starts? Nate? It has the indent, right? So every time I have a little indentation, I know it's a new paragraph. So this will be number 1. There's another indent, so we have number 2. There's another. That's number 3. And some of you, if you didn't, you need to be looking at this while I'm numbering this. If you didn't, for some reason, number your paragraph correctly, you know what you're talking about, but you didn't number your paragraph correctly. And you have to be careful with that. Okay, here's number 4. Now, is this one number 5 or is this still part of number 4? How do we know? Jimmy? Jimmy? It doesn't have an indentation, so that's still part of number 4. We may just put a little number 4 there so I know. Okay, here's number 5, 6, and 7. So everybody should have gotten 7 paragraphs. If you didn't, that may have been what messed up your answer. You have to be real careful. You're always looking for this indentation. This doesn't have an indentation, so it's not another paragraph. And I noticed that some of you put these two together as one. Some of the paragraphs can be really short, like this first one's kind of short. This one's kind of long, but it's still a paragraph because of the indentation, right? All right. Kong, start and read the first paragraph for me. You can look on your paper, or you can look up there.
What's the first word?
It's a name, Allison.
Allison.
Stared.
Stared down at here.
Social studies.
Social studies. Study.
Okay, social studies.
Social study test. She was
Sound it out.
almost finished except for the list quiz. No matter what she did, she could going to do.
Oh, you skipped a line.
Remember the answer quiz. No.
Where'd you go? You're right there.
What was she going to do? Tom was almost up.
All right. So we have Allison taking or trying to take a social studies test. Martin, read paragraph number 2.
She put her head down on her desk, but all she could think about was how badly she needed to get a good grade on the test. Then she sat up and leaned back in her chair. Her eyes rolled as she sat trying to think of the answer. Nothing came to her.
You ever felt like that on a test?
Yeah.
Kind of scary, huh?
No.
I think it's scary. Okay, Sammy, read paragraph number 3.
Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Tommy next to her, writing busily on his test paper. If Allison turned her head just a little, she could almost see Tommy's answers. He hadn't covered his test like he was supposed to. If she could read Tommy's paper, maybe she could pass the test after all. So she twisted her head ever so slightly in his direction. She didn't want the teacher to notice her looking.
What's Allison about to do? Right?
She's trying to cheat on Tommy's paper.
She's trying to cheat off Tommy's paper. Is that something that you're supposed to do?
No.
No. Ooh, let's find out and see if she does. Okay, that's right. If Tommy would have had his cover paper, it wouldn't have been a temptation for Allison. But if somebody sitting next to you forgets their cover paper, does that just give you the right to cheat off their paper?
No.
I don't think so either.
If you can't figure out the answer.
Right. You just gotta think. Okay, Bobby, read paragraph number 4.
Suddenly, Allison jerked her head back on again. Again she stopped herself before getting a look at his answers. She just couldn't do it. If I cheat, the grade won't mean anything anyway. It would only mean that Tommy could pass this test, she told herself as she took another glance at the clock.
All right, Jasmine, number 6. Allison. Decision.
She would not cheat on this test. She would just have to hope that her answers to all the other questions were right. She took the time remaining check over all of her answers. She said the mistakes she had made and thanked it for the time was up, and then turned her check over to the teacher.
All right, Nate, finish it up. Paragraph number 7.
She felt good as she left the classroom. She hadn't cheated, passed or failed. She did her best. If that wasn't enough, she thought, I will just have to study harder the next time. I can always do anything if I put my mind to it.
All right, so what could be the main idea? Let's just think about in our own words before we go on to any of the questions. What do you think the main idea of this story is? Mr. Ray?
This girl couldn't find the couldn't remember the answer that she
Okay, did she try to cheat?
Yes.
She thought about it. I don't think she tried. She thought about it. Did she ever cheat?
No.
No. So yeah, it's about Allison taking this social studies test, and she's trying to decide in her own mind whether she's going to cheat or not. Do you think she'll probably cheat at another time in her life?
No.
Probably not, because she's made this decision right there. She said in the last one, she felt good as she left the classroom. She hadn't cheated. Pass or fail, she did her best. If that wasn't enough, she thought, I'll just have to study harder the next time. I can always do anything if I put my mind to it. So she's pretty much made her lifelong decision right there not to cheat, don't you think? That's right. She forced herself not to cheat. She said, what are you doing? You can't do that. That would just be like when we said up there earlier, if she cheated, all that would prove is that Tommy could pass the test. It wouldn't say anything about whether Allison could. Okay, let's go to the questions and see if we can find out what that main idea is. All right. Get that up a little. Okay, I'll fix it.
Is that right in front of your face?
That's right. You do have it in front of you if you can't see it. All right. Question number 1 says, what is the main idea of the first paragraph? Somebody, after you raise your hand and I call on you, tell me what paragraph we're going to be looking at. Martin? The first, the one that has the number 1 out beside it. So what do we do when we're going through these answers? What do we need to do to help us decide what the main idea is? Jimmy? Okay, we might read the first paragraph. Let's see, why don't I just read it real quickly for us just so we can refresh our mind. It says, Allison stared down at her social studies test. She was almost finished except for the last question. No matter what she did, she couldn't remember the answer. What was she going to do? Time was almost up. Okay, so we've refreshed ourselves. What are we going to do with these answers? Are we just going to look at them and just guess one?
No.
No? Isn't that what y'all do? You just guess an answer?
No.
No? Well, somebody tell me what you do. Jennifer.
You look to see how many things there are about Allison was happy about her social studies
Okay,
test.
where do we look at? Where do we look?
First paragraph.
The first paragraph. All right, so Allison was happy about her social studies test. In the first paragraph, let's go through each sentence for this first time, and then we'll just try to go through it kind of quickly for the other one. You tell me after I read the sentence if it has anything to do with Allison being happy about her social studies test, all right? Allison stared down at her social studies test.
No.
Does that have anything to do with her being happy about her test?
No.
Is she happy about it?
No.
She's just staring, so it's not telling us whether she's happy or not. So that one doesn't count. She was almost finished except for the last question.
No.
No. No matter what she did, she couldn't remember the answer. No. I need everybody participating.
Maybe.
What was she going to do?
No.
Time was almost up.
No.
So how many are there for letter A?
Zero.
There are 0. Let's go to the next one. Allison was stuck on the last question on the social studies test. Okay? Let's see how many. Allison stared down at her social studies test.
No.
Say anything about her being stuck on the last question? Okay. She was almost finished except for the last question.
Yes.
Okay, there's 1. No matter what she did, she couldn't remember the answer.
Yes.
Okay, those of you who are saying yes, why does that have anything to do with it? Jimmy?
Said she was stuck on the last question, and it said she was almost finished after the last question.
Right, and what was the last question? Well, it says she was almost finished except for the last question. So that actually uses the same words, right? So that does have something to do with it. There's the last question in there. Okay? Next one. No matter what she did, she couldn't remember the answer.
Yes.
Okay? Why does that have anything to do with that? Abel?
Because you couldn't remember the answer to the last question.
Right. Couldn't remember the answer to the last question. Let's see. What was she going to do?
No.
Nah, doesn't really have much to do with it. Time was almost up.
No.
No. All right. Next one. Allison was almost finished. How many sentences? Allison stared down at her social studies test.
No.
Okay. She was almost finished except for the last question.
Yes.
Okay.
Half of it.
Right. No matter what she did, she couldn't remember the answer.
No.
What was she going to do?
No.
Time was almost up.
No.
Nope. Just 1 for that one. Okay. Yes, Samuel.
On letter B, there's only 2. Because you read one sentence 2 times. Yep.
You know, I thought I did. I skipped she was almost finished except for the last question, didn't I? Right? Which one did I skip?
No. You read the second sentence 2 times.
Okay, hold on just a second. Are we having a problem?
Yeah. No, it's put it back like it was.
Well, he's already got a grade, so does it matter? He is supposed to correct it so that he'll know the correct answer. Can we please mind our own business?
No. Yeah.
One more time, Brian. You've got a mark. All right, I did skip one. Thanks, Sam, for pointing that out. I think I read the first one. Allison stared down at her social studies test, and I skipped the second one. She was almost finished except for the last question. Does that go along with Allison was stuck on the last question of the social studies test?
Yes.
Yes, it does go along with it, because if they both talk about the last question. So, I put a mark for that one because I knew it, and I knew y'all knew it. Okay, listen, we're going to the last one. All right, let's see. We decided that that's all for C. So we're going on to D, and it says Allison was studying for a test in science. Does this paragraph say anything about science?
No.
So, right, are there going to be any sentences about science in there?
Not even one.
So what should you have marked for question number 1? B, exactly.
Number 2.
The correct answer is B. Okay? All right. Let's go on. Good job. Well, I tell you what, we're just going to have to flip back and forth between them. Or you have it in front of you. I'll just read it in front of me and you read it in front of you. Question number 2. What is the third paragraph mostly about? The third paragraph. So you need to find the third paragraph, which is going to have a number 3 out beside it. you numbered them wrong, and you know which paragraph we're on. Paragraph number 3 starts out of the corner of her eye. And I'm going to continue reading it real quickly. Everybody looking at your paper, following along, not talking. Paragraph number 3. Everybody ready?
Yes.
Brian, get there quickly. Jason. Paragraph number 3 says, out of the corner of her eye, she saw Tommy next to her, writing busily on his test paper. That just means he was doing it quickly. If Allison turned her head just a little, she could almost see Tommy's answers. He hadn't covered his test like he was supposed to. If she could read Tommy's answer, maybe she could pass the test after all. So she twisted her head ever so slightly in his direction. She didn't want the teacher to notice her looking.
How are we going to do it?
I think we'll be able to do it. So what do we need to do? What do we need to start doing? Martin?
We have to look at the questions and then look at the first one and then go back and see it.
Right, and look at each sentence. Now, some of you who didn't make a 100 on the test, did you mark the sentences and the answers like you were supposed to? Because I know that some of you didn't. You paying attention, Bobby? So it's important as we're going through this, if you didn't make a 100 on the test, it's important that when we go through this that you start marking your sentences so you'll understand how to do it. Alright? The first one, letter A, says, and we're looking at the third paragraph and trying to decide what it's mostly about. Letter A says, Allison realized she could get the answers from Tommy's paper if she was careful not to let the teacher see her. Could be. So we're trying to determine what that paragraph was mostly about. Okay? Let's read through each sentence together. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Tommy next to her writing busily on his test paper. Here's the things we're going to be looking for. Allison realized she could get the answers from Tommy's paper. So she can get the answer from Tommy's paper. We'll be looking for that in the sentence. And also, she's being careful not to let the teacher see her. So anything having to do with getting answers from Tommy's paper or letting the teacher see her is going to be one that we're going to mark for A. Alright? Jimmy, you need to get your paper. Do you have a paper?
No, he was absent when we did this.
Yeah.
She was giving him the answer.
Well, he's not going to have to do it anyway. But it would probably be helpful for you to have one. I'm sorry.
He knows the answer. He knows only one answer. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, you can look at it. I'm sorry, please. Alrighty. Sentence number 1 of paragraph 3 says, out of the corner of her eye, she saw Tommy next to her writing busily on his paper. No. If Allison turned her head just a little, she could almost see Tommy's answers. That does have something to do with it because it's
We have to write like
starting to
the
think
little
about
lines. I didn't even write the lines for one. I didn't even know which one I was talking
like I'm
about.
doing up there. Yeah.
I didn't even know which one I was talking about.
Do you see that Martin's talking?
We're going to do number 1. Yes.
Thank you. Alright, second one. We've marked it for the first sentence. Or no, we've marked it for the second sentence. Third sentence. He hadn't covered his test like he was supposed to. Not really. Alright. If she could read Tommy's answer, maybe she could pass the test after all.
Yes.
That does say something about Tommy's answer. I hope if you didn't mark that you're marking these. I don't see any pencils moving, and I know there were some people who didn't mark them.
Uh-oh.
So she twisted her head ever so slightly in his direction.
No.
It kind of does. I know you're kind of going, well, maybe, maybe not. But why is she twisting her head? Martin?
She?
Why is she twisting her head?
Back to paper, back to Tommy.
Well, it said, the sentence right before it said, if she could read Tommy's answers, maybe she could pass the test after all. So she twisted her head ever so slightly in his direction. So why is she twisting her head? Where is she twisting her head to? direction. So does that have anything to do with her getting answers from Tommy's paper?
Yes.
Sure does. She's turning her head so she can see the answers. Yes, Trent? Okay, well, that's fine. Just if you need to mark something, maybe Dre will let you borrow his pencil. Thanks, Dre. All right, next one. She didn't want the teacher to notice her looking.
Yes.
Yes, it does have everything to do with that. Are you girls marking up there?
Four.
Okay. So there are 4 for A. Let's see what B, C, and D do. Right there. All right, letter B. Tommy turned his head ever so slightly to see Allison's test paper so he could copy her answers. Well, does that one even make any sense? What was the story about? Jimmy?
Alice copying this one and one.
Right. So is that one going to have any sentences about it?
No.
Right. It's Allison cheating off of Tommy's paper, not Tommy cheating off of Allison's paper. So that one doesn't make any sense. C. Right. Tommy didn't cover his answers like he was told. Let's go through and see how many sentences. You just tell me yes or no and we'll mark them together. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Tommy next to her writing busily on his test paper. Yes or no?
No.
No. If Allison turned her head just a little, she could almost see Tommy's answers. Does it have anything to do with
Yes.
Tommy covering his answers?
No.
He hadn't covered his test like he was supposed to.
Yes.
Yes. All right. If she could read Tommy's answer, maybe she could pass the test after all. Remember, we're looking for Tommy didn't cover his answers like he was told. Okay. So she twisted her head ever so slightly in his direction. She didn't want the teacher to notice her looking.
No.
I don't hear any noise coming from over here. Are you girls participating?
I'm shaking my head.
Okay, well, I want you to answer to me.
Uh-oh.
So, there's only one for C.
I did.
Which one's winning so far?
Hey.
Hey. Let's see if D can beat it out. No. D says, out of the corner of her eye, Allison could see that Tommy was writing busily on his test paper. Let's see how many sentences go with this one. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Tommy next to her writing busily on his test paper.
Yes.
I think that one would probably go with it since it's the same exact sentence almost. Okay? If Allison turned her head just a little, she could almost see Tommy's answers.
No.
Okay, but see, when you have a sentence that's exactly like the one that's in the paragraph, it really can't be any other sentence except for that one. Kind of like the C. It only had one because Tommy didn't cover his answers like he was told was only in there once, right? That sentence was in there once. So if you read through by yourself and look, are there any other sentences that match up with D? So A wins. You should have marked A for question number 2.
The other one's open.
Alright. Now some of you who didn't get some of these right, are you understanding? Are you starting to kind of catch the drift of what we're doing with main idea? Okay, Abel. Oh, well good. Is there anybody that missed number 1 or number 2? Kong, you need to sit up. Anybody who missed number 1 or number 2 that doesn't quite understand why they missed it or doesn't understand why we chose the answers we did? Anybody?
He's sleeping.
Do you understand? Desmond and Kelly, do you understand? Do you have a question, Brian, or are you being silly?
I don't know. He said it got 2.
Sam, do you need to be worrying about what Brian missed? Do you? No? Then let's not do that anymore. Brian, if you missed 1 or 2, do you have any questions about number 1 or number 2?
Nope.
You understand them.
Uh-huh.
So what answer did you mark for number 1? What answer should you have corrected it to?
Me.
B.
last question on the social skill.
Good. Do you know why that's the main idea of the first paragraph?
Yeah.
Why?
It has more things.
Okay, how many? Are you following along with us?
Yeah.
We only found 3. We found 3 sentences to go along with B. Brian, I need you to be paying attention and following along with us, unless you made a 100. Did you make a 100?
Nope.
Then you definitely need to be following along and paying attention. Well, we should have found 3. We found 3 together. All right, we're going to go on to question number 3. Question number 3 says, what is the main idea of the 5th paragraph? Somebody read the 5th paragraph for us. Actually, let me choose who is going to read that. Sarah. Figure out what's the main idea of the 5th paragraph. A. Allison turned again to look at Tommy's paper. We're going to find anything that goes along with Allison turning to look at his paper. I'm going to read them, and just like we've done on the rest of them, you're going to tell me yes or no. Just answer out all together. Colin, sit up. You paying attention, Colin? This is important. All right. Allison turned to look at Tommy's paper. That's what we're looking for. First sentence, Dre, sit up. Turn your paper over and follow along with us. Thank you very much. We are on question number 3, however. You're not on that page. Okay, first sentence in the 5th paragraph. Allison turned to look at Tommy's paper again. Does that have anything to do with Allison turning again to look at Tommy's paper?
Yes.
Sounds like it. Again, she stopped herself before getting a look at his answers.
No.
Anything to do with her turning? No. She just couldn't do it.
Yeah. Yes, she couldn't do it. She couldn't turn her head. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's what when they say she just couldn't do it, what are they talking about? Doc, what? She just couldn't look at his paper, so she just couldn't turn. So yeah, I think that would have something to do with it. All right, next. If I cheat, the grade won't mean anything anyway. Anything to do with her turning to look at his paper? No. It would only mean that Tommy could pass this test, she told herself as she took another glance at the clock. Anything to do with her turning to look at his paper? No. Right. Okay, so we only have 2 for A. Let's go on to B. Allison looked at the clock again. How many sentences in here mention clock? Jimmy? Okay, Jimmy says 1. Are there any more than 1 that mention clock? So the only sentence that has anything to do with clock is the very last one that says, it would only mean that Tommy could pass this test, she told herself as she took another glance at the clock. Is that one in paragraph number 5? No, we're looking at paragraph number 5. Alright, C. Allison wouldn't let herself cheat off of Tommy's paper. So anything where Allison is thinking about cheating and decides not to, any sentence that has anything to do with that. Let's see. Allison turned to look at Tommy's paper again. Does that have anything to do with Allison not cheating? She's turning at that point to look at his paper. Okay. Again, she stopped herself before getting a look at his answers. Right. That has a lot to do with her not looking at his answers. She just couldn't do it.
Yes.
Okay?
I changed my answer already.
Okay. If I cheat, the grade won't mean anything anyway.
Yes.
Why is that one? Because when she's saying that, when she says, if I cheat, the grade won't mean anything anyway, she's like trying to convince herself of why she shouldn't, because it's not going to mean anything. It's not going to be...
It's going to say that Tommy passed, not her.
Right, it's going to say that Tommy passed, so that one counts also. And then the next one says it would only mean that Tommy could pass the test, she told herself as she took another glance at the clock. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Why do you say yes, Jennifer?
Because she said, wait, what was the sentence again?
It would only mean that Tommy could pass this test, she told herself as she took another glance at the clock.
I mean, no.
Okay, anybody think yes? Well, I think yes.
Why do
Because,
I just
yeah,
oh yeah.
it's the same thing as the sentence before.
Oh, now I get it.
Right.
Now I get it. I forget.
When she says it would only mean, when she says it, what does that mean? What does the it stand for? Sam. The grade or cheating, it would only mean that Tommy could pass the test, right? So I think that has a lot to do with it as well. All right, D. Allison asked Tommy what time it was. Are there any sentences in paragraph number 5 where Allison asked Tommy what time it is?
No.
So what is the answer to number 3? It is C.
I just changed it to that.
Beautiful. All right, we're going to have to quickly go to the next one, so I need everybody quietly paying attention, answering yes or no when I read the questions, but I don't need that talking out and stuff like you're doing right there, Charlie. I don't need any questions because we're going to go on. Number 4. What is the 6th paragraph mainly about? Somebody who got this one right, raise your hand and explain to us how you decided what paragraph number 6 was mainly about. Jennifer, number 4.
Instead of cheating, she decided to check over her test.
Okay.
What made me choose that is because she felt good as she left because I read number 6 paragraph over you, and I found that she hadn't cheated. Pass or fail, she did her best.
Okay.
And that made me
Is that one in the 6th or 7th paragraph?
6.
That's the 7th paragraph.
6.
Okay, somebody else who got number 4 right, explain to us how you did that. Question number 4. Dre, that's not an answer that's going to help anybody get the right answer.
Yeah?
Sam, how did you get the right answer to number 4?
I looked at the answer. I looked at the answer process. I looked at all of the paragraphs. And Thomas
Okay, didn't have any sentences about the first one.
Then I looked at letter B. Allison found a mistake. She made another answer. Only one.
Okay, there was only one.